The regular meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, June 14th, 2021 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone join us for the invocation from Alderman Schandelmeier, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those of you who have faith, please bow your heads and close your eyes. Those of you who do not, feel free to just say, listen silently. O Lord, we ask for you to watch over us and help us make the right decisions for our people and for as many folks as possible, and to continue to do good works. Amen.
Amen. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Here.
Alderwoman Tierney? Here. Alderman Paone?
Here.
Alderwoman Kendall Charles? Alderwoman Finlayson?
Present.
Alderman Schandelmeier?
Present.
Alderman Gay?
Yes.
Alderman Savidge?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, the first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
All those in favour, say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is ceremonial items, beginning with ID 11221, City Council citation, Clayton Edward Francis Derderian.
Okay, I'm going to hand this over to Alderman Tierney.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In your neighborhoods, in all of your respective neighborhoods, you probably have developed some sort of a rhythm. You might know the mailman, and you might know the older people in your neighborhood. But in my old neighborhood, there was an incredible young man who recently died of brain and spinal cancer at 12 years old. And I say that because the pattern was that you would see Clayton, going to school every morning with his cane, and he developed blindness, and he would be with his mom getting on the paratransit bus. And he would always be smiling and very happy. I will always regret that I could never fix the brick sidewalk for him, because he couldn't see when I, tried to explain to him about the tree roots. He couldn't really see, what I was talking about. But anyway, so he died, and his parents are still mourning. We're looking to see if we can do some kind of a bench or some kind of memorial for him. So I will read the citation. They may or may not be watching, but they are taping us. So this is for Clayton Edward Francis Derderian. On behalf of the residents of the city of Annapolis, we are honored to confer upon you this city council citation in recognition of the life of Clayton Edward Francis Derderian. Clay, known to family and friends as Clay Bear, Chili Bean, Mr. Dunderfuss, he had quite an imagination, and Busby was an aspiring chef, inventor, and entrepreneur. He bravely battled a torturous form of brain and spinal cancer for 12 years. He was a Braille reader, but always preferred to be read to, ideally in character. He loved a good joke or a good story, and despite his disease, somehow managed to love life and those around him. Our hearts ache for his mother, Mary Bannon, his father, J.D., his sister Grace, and grandmothers Arnett Bannon and Inez Derderian. Clay had numerous aunts, uncles, and cousins who loved him dearly. So given under our hands in the great seal of the city of Annapolis this 14th day of June, 2021, we present this city council citation to him. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is the appointment. The first one is AP 1021, the appointment of James Jenkins to the Planning Commission.
I'd like to entertain a motion to approve AP 1021.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favour say aye.
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 Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The next item is reappointment.
Mr. Mayor, can we take the rest of those all as one vote?
By acclamation.
Oh, I apologise.
Well, there's 6 of them, and I certainly haven't heard from any of my colleagues that they're not going to approve.
I can say them all at one time.
Can we approve them as a block? Mr. City Attorney?
The reappointment of Christian Zazali to the Board of Appeals, the reappointment of Cynthia Toll-Cruzen to the Arts and Public Places Commission, the reappointment of Chrissa Rich to the Arts and Public Places Commission, the reappointment of Genevieve Torrey to the Arts and Public Places Commission, the reappointment of Barbara Torian to the Arts and Public Places Commission, the appointment of John Egidio to the Civil Service Board.
Okay, we're going to vote on those as a block. So someone move those as a block, please.
I actually want to remove one from the block to, never mind, it can't be done that way, Virginia? Okay, yeah, because I wasn't aware, updated on the Ward 6 reappointment, I'm sorry. I don't want to say her name out, but if we could remove AP 1521 and just postpone it for the 24th, is I think our last meeting in the month.
Who's that, John?
No, this is the Ward 6 reappointment, AP 1521.
15.
Are you making a motion to postpone that one until the next meeting?
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah, I make a motion to postpone A 1521 to our second meeting in June.
Okay, can we get a second?
Second.
And then can you explain?
Yeah, I just wanted to be able to have the opportunity to discuss with her. We did talk previously, but then obviously the pandemic happened and we kind of fell out of touch as it related to her work on the Arts and Public Place Commission. And I love what she does on the commission. We just haven't had an opportunity to speak since then.
Okay, all those in favour say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Can we move the rest of the block? Someone move the rest of the block, please.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to remove the rest of the block.
Second?
All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is petition reports and communications. First, update from the mayor.
So good evening to the huge crowd that's out there.
Oh, that's hard.
There are a couple of events on the horizon, but first, I thank our partners at Downtown Annapolis Partnership and the Garden Girls for the flower baskets in downtown. They're so attractive and help remind residents and visitors of the experience of shopping local. Coming up this week, we have inaugural Annapolis Juneteenth celebration. On Friday the 18th, a gala at MC3 at Park Place. On Saturday, the 19th, a 63-unit parade that starts at City Dock and goes up Main Street and ending at Maryland Hall. That begins at noon. From 2 p.m. until nightfall, there is a festival with food and family-friendly activities at the Bates Athletics Complex, followed by fireworks from the lower field. Please go to visitannapolisjuneteenth.org to get tickets to the gala and learn more about the event, if there are any tickets left. Alderman Finlayson, are there any tickets left?
I don't believe so, Mr. Mayor. Which is a
But I don't want to say that for sure.
But they should check the website just in case.
Thank you. As many of you have read in the paper, the sentencing portion of the trial for the Capital Gazette shooter is ongoing. Please hold survivors and their families and those who lost loved ones close to your hearts in this difficult time. Later this month, we will be dedicating a memorial to those lost at the Capital Gazette as a reminder of the importance of a free press. The memorial, Guardians of the First Amendment, is currently under construction on the corner of Compromise Street and Newman Street. The dedication will take place at 11 a.m. on Monday, June 28th. Author David Simon will be the keynote speaker, and author Laura Littman will dedicate the memorial. The event has been organised by the Caucus of African American Leaders, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Committee, the Office of County Executive Stuart Pittman, and our office. The dedication will take place on the 3rd anniversary of the Capitol Gazette shooting. Every mass shooting in America seems to have a hallmark. We remember Pulse nightclub as a hate crime that targeted LGBTQ. Parkland, because those kids were old enough to speak out and advocate for change. A first-person voice that Sandy Point kindergartners did not have. Charleston was an African-American congregation killed while they prayed alongside their shooter. And Pittsburgh as a place where people were killed at their synagogue. Annapolis is the place where the largest mass killing of journalists took place. A physical attack on freedom of the press. I firmly believe that regional newspapers are key to robust democratic institutions. It remains to be seen how the Capital Gazette, Baltimore Sun's recent acquisition by Olden Capital will play out. It is my hope that our Guardians Memorial in Annapolis will not just be a reminder of the lives lost at the paper, but of the enduring importance of a free press. This year, we will hold municipal elections in Annapolis, mayor and all 8 council districts. The primary is September 21, and the general election is November 2nd. This year, the Annapolis Board of Supervisors of Elections decided to send ballots to every registered voter in the city. Please make sure your address is up to date. You can visit elections.maryland.gov to check your registration. Deadline to register or update your address is in August. Each mailed-in ballot to the board receives will have a signature match to ensure election security. At the right time, voters can return their ballots by mail, in person, at polling places, or vote in person. As more states across the nation are making it harder for people to vote, I'm happy to know that Annapolis is a leader in making it more convenient to exercise a right that so many fought so hard to secure. We're nearing the conclusion of our project to rebuild the tennis and pickleball courts at Truxton Park. Look for a ribbon-cutting ceremony on June 24th at 10 a.m. I want to thank our community for their patience. Drainage issues and material shortages seem to have dogged that project, but we are happy to see the ribbon cutting on the calendar. I think Alderman Gay and I need a rematch. We're continuing our plans for Independence Day celebrations weekend. Please visit the city's website and use the keyword July 4th to see the schedule of events. I want to thank all of our partners, Visit Annapolis, Downtown Partnership, Historic Annapolis, Art in Public Places, Annapolis Maritime Museum, and more. This year will be a comeback for Annapolis and a reminder to people near and far that we are open for business here in the city. Speaking of open for business, please get your vaccine if you haven't already. Dying of COVID at this point is unnecessary, since we have a safe and effective way of avoiding it. And on Sunday, it's Father's Day. I know that one of the most rewarding things I've had the privilege to enjoy is the title of Dad. On behalf of the residents and this council, I want to wish the dads in our community a very happy Father's Day. Let's get on with the meeting. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney.
The next item on the agenda is reports by committees.
Alderman Gay.
Thanks. The Housing and Human Welfare Committee meets the 21st at 6:30 p.m. We will hear CA 121, which is the Office of Community Caring Services, as well as 0421, as well as a follow-up presentation with the Affordable Housing Task Force, who will make the presentation this Thursday, the 17th, to the full council. Also requesting on the record, if possible, on the 21st, a briefing from the city attorney's office as it related to the cases involving HACA for the Housing and Human Welfare Committee. And that was all for us.
Thank you. Alderman Paone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Audit Committee will meet next Monday. I guess it's still a virtual meeting. We will be discussing, hopefully we'll hear from, I think it's Forest Associates. They have been briefing and training our department heads with regard to setting performance measures. This is something that the committee thinks is extremely important in measuring how we're doing in different projects, different departments, and we hope to move forward from there in a very positive way. The meeting starts at 8 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully it'll be over by 9:30. And that's it. There will be various and sundry other business will be discussed.
Thank you. Alderman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Public Safety Standing Committee today met at 5 o'clock. I had some professional responsibilities that I had to take care of, 5 until 6. And so we got through a good portion of the state legislation, but we're going to continue that meeting sometime this month, probably within the next 10 days. So I was grateful for today's meeting by the police department. Thank you.
Okay, I see no other reports. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
So we have no speakers scheduled to come on today. So, except
He's under the public hearing to kid. He's not supposed to be speaking.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is consent calendar, approval of journal proceedings, regular meeting minutes, special meeting minutes, and renewal of top-notch towing and renewal of JP towing under business and miscellaneous.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Alderman Schandelmeier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a quick question on the renewal of the towing contracts. When do we authorize their use?
It's for the police.
Oh, it's for police?
They're contractors to the city of Annapolis Police Department. They send them out when there are accidents in the city. They
Okay.
only have two.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think this is a roll call.
Yes. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Schandelmeier?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Yes.
Alderman Savidge?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Paone?
Aye.
I'm sorry, Alderman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor.
City Attorney, please present the
Mr.
next
Mayor.
item.
The next item on the agenda is public hearings, beginning with CA 121, Office of Community Services established.
Okay, Alderman Gay.
Yeah, I had a question really quick on ID 132, so do they just do this periodically? Because I'm just opening it up here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 vehicles listed. So do they do this on a monthly basis, or how often do we approve the contract?
The contractors are on a list for the Annapolis Police Department, and you just proved them, this is like their 5th renewal, the 2
Okay.
companies, and they just dispatch to areas in the city when there's an issue with like a city vehicle or vehicles left or abandoned, they tow them to their yard.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So no speakers on CA 121. I declare the public hearing on CA 121 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is, I'm sorry, just want to make sure here. 0121, bulk regulations, R4 and R4R residential zoning districts for the purpose of correcting conflicts in the bulk regulations table and the table notes related to attached single-family and multifamily dwellings.
Okay, I have no speakers listed on this public hearing. I accept into the record the Planning Commission's findings dated May 6th, 2021. I declare the public hearing on O-1-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-721, short-term rental licenses, conservation districts.
All right, we do have some testimony for this. First, hey Mark, if you could just state your full name and address for the record. Welcome.
Oops, unmute.
We got a little audio problem. Hold on.
Let's see. There we go.
There we go.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Mark Millay of 123 Conduit Street, and tonight I'm joining you as the president of the Ward 1 Residents Association to share our members' strong support of 0721 and mitigate the growth of new short-term rental licenses for non-owner occupied properties in 3 of our conservation zone residence districts of downtown Annapolis. In a recent poll of our 188 voting members, all of whom are indeed downtown residents, 90% of return votes support the legislation. We view it as a reasonable compromise that protects neighborhoods and the districts most at risk of losing long-term residents to the growth of these non-conforming property uses, while affirming the value that existing short-term rental industry provides to our community. The city's short-term rental regulations currently don't cap the growth of STRs across the city, and council members who voted to pass O2619 back in January 2020 made verbal commitments to revisit zoning within the historic district through Title 21 to create a check on the growth of non-owner occupied short-term rentals in these conservation zone neighborhoods. Well, we believe 0721 is a balanced measure that accomplishes this by updating the Title 21 use tables and requiring a special exception in those 3 conservation neighborhoods, all while supporting the downtown short-term rental industry and those whom they serve by grandfathering existing license holders and excluding the C2 and C2A zones downtown. Our association believes 0721 complements 2619 by preserving the existing short-term rental industry in downtown Annapolis while adding a critical public check valve to the licensing process through the special exceptions public hearing process. We support our short-term rental industry across downtown Annapolis, understand it provides a necessary service to our guests and income to their owners. Our residents just want to make sure that they have a means to voice concerns now and in the future should the growth and impact of non-owner occupied short-term rentals shift from benefit to burden on a neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker is Carl Larkin. Thank you, Mark. Okay, Carl, can you hear me? Yeah. Carl, can you hear me? Yeah, so Carl, we can't see you. So are you on mute, or can we come back round to you?
Well, you better. What's going on? Should be able to hear me now.
Okay, we can hear you. Thank you. Could you please state your full name and address for the record, please, Carl? You're good for a second. Yeah. He's gone? Okay, we're going to try to come back to Carl. Okay. Carl, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, we can hear you now. Can you state your full name and address for the record, please, Carl?
Maybe not.
Carl Larkin, 154 Prince George Street. The city has zoning laws that tend to separate businesses from residents. They've not been enforced the last few years. This is a nice compromise that brings those back together. So I would invite you to support this legislation that in effect is a compromise that allows existing ones to continue while at the same time separating residents from businesses. So if we can do that, I think we'll have a win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, next up, Susan Margolis.
Can you hear me, Mayor Buckley?
We can hear you, Susan. If you just state your full name and address. No video. Hey. We like the video piece.
Hello, Annapolis City Council. My name is Susan Margulies, and I live at 113 Conduit Street. Thank you for allowing me to address you today. But I must say, Zoom is a lot easier, and I strongly encourage the City Council to drift towards Zoom. So I'd like to comment about 0721. And first, I want to applaud Alderwoman Tierney for trying to listen to her constituents and come up with a bill that matches their needs. But regretfully, I do not think that this bill is the right way to regulate short-term rentals. So this bill has a special exception based on community need, and it would force a person applying for a short-term rental license to go to the Board of Appeals and put together a presentation on community need. First of all, this does seem to me to be a misuse of the Board of Appeals. I really think that the Board of Appeals, their business is not arbitrating social policy. Its business is looking at new construction and renovation and all of those kinds of projects. And a person trying to justify community need, they could just provide testimony from Navy families about how they need places to stay, and then they could provide testimony from other hosts that they're booked to capacity. And what is the Board of Appeals supposed to do with that kind of testimony? They would either deny them all or grant them all. And it just seems to me that in neither case, the community is served. And in neither case is the purpose of this ordinance served. This is just not the way to regulate short-term rentals. The last thing I wanted to say is that I really share Alderwoman Tierney's passion and Mark Millet's passion and Carl Larkin's passion for our neighborhoods. But if you want residents to move into the historic district, in my opinion, what is being overlooked here is probably the number one reason that people don't move into the historic district. And that is the Historic Preservation Society and the lack of the ability to do things to your own home. You can't put solar panels on your roof. You can't put little stained glasses in your windows. There are lots of things that you can't do. So it's that that should be looked at first. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Susan. Nice to see you back. Okay, next up is Charles Parker. Okay, nobody here? Okay, so that's the 4 people here for live testimony. I'll read in the written testimony was received from Chris Cole of 55 East Street, Annapolis, Mike Farmer, 142 Prince George Street, Annapolis, Marianne Marbury, 134 Market Street, Annapolis, Noel Richmond, 142 Monticello Avenue, Norman Lerner, 9 Cathedral Street, Doris Price, 9 Cathedral Street, Thomas Berger, 170 Duke of Gloucester Street. 8 is Nancy Steer, 122 Sparview Avenue. Anne and Jim Phillips, 178 Prince George Street. Deborah Connors, 58 Franklin Street. Henry Kenchington, 216 Prince George Street. Merles McDivitt, 202 King George Street. William Dyott, 221 King George Street. Victoria Duncan, 33 East Street. Tammy Tober, 163 Prince George Street. And finally, Krista Sublet, 21 East Street. I'd like to accept into the record the Planning Commission findings dated May 20th, 2021. And I declare the public hearing on O-7-21 closed. Alderman Gay?
I appreciate that. I had a question for the city attorney. Based off of what the testimony Susan just presented, and actually the next piece of legislation, O-1621, could an argument be made that the requirement of approval by a neighbor in order for you to get the special exemption application approved by the Board of Appeals be similar to the argument that you were saying with the requirement by a neighbor to allow the chickens on property?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present. Next item on the agenda?
Yes, the next item is O-1621, maintaining chickens.
I remember a long time ago there was a lot of debate on this, so not this time apparently. No speakers, no comments. So I declare the public hearing on O-16-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-1721, public services, water and sewer.
We again have no speakers on this. I declare the public hearing on O-17-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-1821, municipal elections, canvassing.
Again, no speakers. I declare the public hearing on O-18-21 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item is legislative actions on first reader, beginning with CA-221, nonpartisan elections.
Is there a motion to adopt CA-2-21 on first reader? Fred? Is there a motion to adopt CA-2-21?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'm hoping that we can pass this on this evening on first reader, and I think that there'll be some lively discussions as well. There ought to be. Not completely sure that we'll get this in by the end of our term, but I think we can if we try. And a little bit of work to be done, but I think it's doable. It's an important issue and needs to be discussed. And really, that's all we're saying when we vote for something on first reader, that we're going to discuss it later on. And that's what I would like to do.
Alderman Savidge.
Yeah, so, I'm going to do something unusual, which is normally, I think we often, myself included, support legislation on first reader. But in this case, I can't support this during this time. I'm open to, and I've always said I'm open to nonpartisan elections, but to force us to have this discussion with only 3 months left, we have July, September, October, and October is our last month to actually take action on something. To force us to have a discussion on this huge, very huge issue, this is a drastic change, in 3 months is not appropriate. That's not a good enough time to be developing any kind of consensus on the council or with the public. And I just can't help but to feel this is more of a rushed political issue, which is ironic, because this is nonpartisan elections. I think we need to make sure this needs to be a good, thorough discussion. And I don't think inserting politics into this, given an election year, is the way to go. And we have a lot of other business we need to deal with in our remaining 3 months. And I just think this is going to bog us down, make things a lot more contentious, and it's just not worth doing. And not to mention, the Charter Review Commission is still not even released their findings. This is really just jumping the gun. So I again, given all those things, I cannot support this on first reader, but I am willing to have the conversation next term.
Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have to tell my colleagues on the council that I've been an avid watcher of the Charter Revision Commission. We have a great group of people on that commission, and they are really putting in an incredible amount of work, very thoughtful. I actually believe that we will get a very different report from them than we've gotten in the past. But I will tell you that this is something that they've already discussed, and if they come out with the kinds of thoughtful recommendations that I believe they will, I think we're going to want to wait for that. And I agree with my colleague, Alderman Savidge. While this may be a worthwhile notion, I've been on too many councils where we've done some very critical things as the last-minute vote. And I think this is too important to rush into a last-minute vote. So I'd prefer to wait till we hear from the Charter Review Commission.
Alderman Tierney.
I was just going to ask if this is appropriate, if we could ask my colleague Alderman Paone what is the reasoning for introducing it now?
The reasoning for now is that I tried to do it in December and was told that there wasn't enough time to do it for this year. In the meantime, I've been pretty much laser focused on the budget, and I just haven't had the time it takes to devote to this. Now is as soon as I could get it in. Actually, I was hoping to get it in 2 weeks ago, but they couldn't squeeze it on the agenda, and it's not for want of effort that it is on tonight for the first time. I would like to have done it sooner, but I'm on the Finance Committee, and that was a full-time job for 2 months out of the year, and couldn't get it done any sooner.
Yeah, I do concur with my colleague Alderman Savidge that it's a very unfortunate timing, because the person that I recommended for the charter review called me, and it kind of throws a curve in what they've been doing, and it's unfortunate because it takes a long time to discuss this. I didn't know it was so severe that it was basically cutting committees and everything. So yeah, it's a big deal.
Thank you, Alderman Paone.
Mr. Mayor, there is enough time for this and any other legislation that we see fit. I mean, if there's not time for this, then there's not time for anything. This is important. And any new legislation that comes up, you could say that about. I'd like to know what's changed since lunchtime today when my colleague from Ward 1 said that for discussion purposes, she'd be happy to vote for this on first reader.
Oh, well, I'm listening to other arguments and the message that I got from the person that I recommended on the Charter Commission. What committees would it have to go through?
I'm not sure how it's written up, but yeah.
Goes in the Board of Election.
Good. Okay, Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I can understand everyone's viewpoint concerning this legislation, but today, out of respect for my colleague in Ward 2, I will be supporting this on first reader. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Savidge.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, that brings up an important point, though. So this would go to the Board of Elections when they're quite busy with trying to organize and run our upcoming elections in November. They have a lot of work to do, and now we're going to ask them to take a review nonpartisan election. I mean, let me give you an idea of how much work this is going to take. I mean, the proposal is that it would remove our primaries entirely. We would have one election during the general election. That is not necessarily the best way to go. That would mean we could potentially have multiple candidates running in the one election, and nobody would win with the majority of the vote. You could have somebody winning with a plurality, with a lot of division going in to the final vote. So I think we need to look at whether or not we would want to have a primary election with then a runoff election in November. I think we want to look at whether or not we want to have ranked choice voting or instant runoff voting and a combination with those. But there are multiple things to look at, and those are big concepts we need to discuss as a council, not to mention with the board. And I'm sorry, we can't do that in 3 months.
Let you respond, Alderman Paone.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think that, first of all, this doesn't take effect until the next election, not this one. I would note we have 3.5 months, and frankly, if this council can't get something passed in 3.5 months, then maybe we deserve the negative comments that I hear among my constituents that we don't ever get anything done. Throwing things to the council is like throwing it down a big black hole. And we've got enough time. We've got 1, 3, 5, at least 7 meetings, to say nothing of special meetings in between and work sessions. We've got enough time. If we want to get this done, we can get it done.
Alderman Gay was next, and then Alderman Schandelmeier.
My only question is I'm not seeing the fiscal note on, did you mention that? I'm sorry.
September.
Oh, I thought you were, I didn't see a fiscal note, and so obviously the traditional cost associated with an election would still be in place. It's just a simple, I shouldn't just say just a simple, based off of this legislation, what you're requiring on the ballot is removing of the D or the R. So the ballot process could potentially work. I think I share a concern with my colleague. Then when we get out of the primary election, I've told you I'll vote for this tonight, though. I'm just asking the question. Once we get out of the primary, and what do? Do we go to ranked choice? Do we go to an immediate runoff in the first Tuesday or the second Tuesday following the election? So I just think those are the concerns that that I would have in the future. And after this vote, we could probably talk about that then.
All right.
Alderman Schandelmeier.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this would require input from our Board of Elections, correct?
Doesn't require it, but we'd probably get it.
Okay, so I share a little bit of the concern for I share a little bit of concern that our Board of Elections may not have time to go over a lot of this with an election coming up. But I think what happens if they don't? Like, will they be able to get back to this later? Like, I'm having difficulty trying to figure out. I think this should be entered in for at least conversation. What's that? I'm trying to figure out like what happens if they just don't have time to manage our election and go over the stuff for this. It just dies or.
Mr. Mayor, I would point out that I was told that in December, that 11 months wasn't enough time. I mean, my bottom line is if not now, when? Because they will probably never have enough time.
Who stopped you in December?
I'm sorry?
Who stopped you in December?
Actually, it's the Office of Law.
No, sir.
Wasn't you.
Then it wasn't the Office of Law.
So Alderman Tierney, then Alderman Gay.
Okay, I must have imagined it.
I have to redeem myself from our lunch conversation. What I did say was that it was unfortunate that this legislation that you proposed was so drastic, and that I had heard there was some merit in allowing the independent vote during the primaries, because I've heard a lot about that. And then you said, well, we could always amend it. So I guess from that you assumed it would go past first reader. I don't know. I don't know if that discussion is, your legislation is far more severe than that, and I don't know if an amendment could, that changes the narrative to something totally different. So again, makes it complicated. Goes back to the timing.
All right.
Alderman Gay?
I'm just rambling now.
Thank you. Really quick. Again, another concern that maybe you can address later on at another point. This would require, if in case of a vacancy or whatever, the council then, and Lisa says here on page 3, line 38, the council then would be selecting the individual to fill that vacancy. So it wouldn't be as nonpartisan as you think it would be, because the majority would be selecting the individual to fill that spot. But then secondly, as I mentioned at our lunch earlier today, it may be a longer process. I use the word referendum. The city can't make referendums, but we could put it out for put it in for a ballot, get the 5,000 signatures. If it is a legitimate issue, as some constituents have raised, maybe that is a possible way to get it within the appropriate time frame that you'd still like, because it would be before the December, swap and election.
Thank you. Alderman Schandelmeier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to say this. This is just going to enter it into the discussion with some exceptions of when something is really egregiously terrible in concept. I think it is worth bringing into the discussion, so I would encourage my colleagues to support this.
Alderman Tierney?
Yeah, someone on the charter suggested to me that it go to the ballot, but then what Alderman Paone told me at lunch is that to get on the ballot, it requires X number of signatures that I think is more than the number of people that vote. So it's kind of hard to do that. So it's discussion there's a lot of discussion.
Okay. So I'm in agreement with most of my colleagues. The timing's terrible, and there's equity issues on this types of election as well, but I do think it's worth talking about in the next cycle. All those in favour, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. No.
No.
Roll call, please.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
No.
Alderman Finlayson?
No.
Alderman Schandelmeier?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savidge?
No.
Alderman Arnett?
Abstain.
Alderman Tierney?
No.
Alderman Paone
Aye.
and Alderman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
That motion is defeated because it's 4-4. So it dies.
4-4.
4-4. It's defeated, sorry.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, the next item on the agenda was O 2021. It's a related motion to the charter. Because the charter amendment failed, this one also has to be set aside for the same reason.
I would withdraw this. It seems the appropriate thing to do.
You'll just withdraw that?
Yep.
I mean, there's no point.
It can't go forward because you need the charter amendment to be voted on first.
Well, all right. I mean, either way, I don't think we ought to.
We don't have to vote it down or anything?
No, you don't have to do anything. The
Next
next,
on the agenda?
the next item is O 2121, Public Ethics Statement of Compliance.
Is there a motion to adopt O-21-21 on first reader?
So moved.
Just a second.
Second, please. Alderman Paone?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Having had personal experience with what this covers, that is a meeting of the, I forget what it's called, the Board of...
Supervisors.
No, it's not the Board of Canvassers. As have one or two of my colleagues, I'm glad it's a week away. I think it's appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate to do it the next day. I see no reason for doing that. I'm not even sure how you would do that if there are any absentee ballots, but I suppose maybe the new things that the Board of Elections has decided to do may take care of that. I'm not sure, but I think a week is not an inappropriate amount of time, and I see no reason to change it. It worked just fine. There were two or three of us that last time more or less had to wait a week before it was official, and I'm glad we did. There were lots of things happened in that week, and I think it's an appropriate amount of time. Thank you. Maybe I read another.
That was in reference to 1821.
Okay. Apologies.
We're on
2121.
Okay, I take it all back.
Okay. Alderman Schandelmeier?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So basically, the go through of this is our law office says that our ethics compliance stuff, those are against Maryland law, in confliction with Maryland law. What's the
Mr. City Attorney?
Sir, yes. This particular, we've had two different ways of bringing on individuals to volunteer for the city. One was with the swearing in and the oath of office. Everybody gets that, but for some reason, the code mandated that certain officials coming on had to sign another document, a statement of compliance. Basically, it was redundant and didn't need to be done because the oath takes care of everything. In addition, we also have, for some of those officials, a financial disclosure form that must be done by state law anyway. So it overlaid another structure that seemed to conflict with state law, which requires an oath and for some, a financial disclosure. So this didn't need to be done at all.
Okay, so this is just getting rid of redundant paperwork
Exactly,
that's already covered.
yes.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lyles.
Thank you. Alderman Paone?
Apologies, Mr. Mayor. I got my notes mixed up with 1821 with 02121. You're absolutely right, and I apologize for taking up the council's time.
Okay. All those in favor of O-2121, say aye. Aye. Opposed? I'd like to refer O-2121 to the Rules and City Government Committee. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is O-2221, Administrative Hearing Officer by contract established.
Is there a motion to adopt O22-21 on first reader?
So moved.
Can I get a second? Thank you. Any discussion? Alderman Paone?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think that this is too important an issue to be brought up at the last minute in our session. And I think that it requires obviously a lot of time. And I have a mind to vote no on first reader on everything that comes up because none of it will take any more or less time than what I had proposed. This is an extremely important issue right here. And I can't see getting it done in 7 meetings that we have left after tonight. I think that, we're going to have to hear from planning and zoning. We're going to have to hear from lots of people. There'll be hearings of various committees. There isn't time to get it done.
I'm just going to clarify, how many meetings are left? 5 meetings left. Thank you. Alderman Gay?
Thank you. I appreciate it. I do have a similar question, I guess, Ross, because I'm reading here, and it would require us to bring both boards, the Board of Appeals, and it appears as the Planning Commission as well before us. And do you think you'll have the sufficient time to get it done?
Yeah, I don't think we need to bring the Board of Appeals before us.
Okay.
It will automatically go to the Planning
I could
Commission.
vote for anything on first reader.
Could you also explain? I'm sorry. It says the ordinance describes the new position and require qualifications, including good standing with the Maryland Bar Association. So are they bringing in an additional person to assist with the administrative? Oh, it is the administrative hearing officer.
Yes, it is the administrative hearing, and it's a contract position.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favour of O-22-21, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Thank you. Going to refer O-22-21 to the Planning Commission, Board of Appeals, and Rules and City Government Committee. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O2321, Annapolis Harbor Lines, 222 Severn Avenue.
Is there a motion to adopt O-23-21 on first reader?
So moved.
Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Alderman Paone.
Mr. Mayor, I think that we won't have time to get this done. I think that we have to call in all kinds of different committees to testify regarding this. We only have 7 meetings left, and there's no better chance of getting this done than there was of my legislation regarding a much more important issue. And my colleagues didn't seem to even want to talk about that. I don't see how we could possibly get this through in 3 months, 3.5 months.
Mr. Mayor.
3 of your colleagues did. Alderman Arnett.
The changing of harbor lines is fairly pro forma. It's handled quite easily by our planning staff. Kevin Scott is well aware of this. It will be going before the port wardens. I also had a request that it go before the Maritime Advisory Board, so I'd like it to be sent there. But these are done rarely but routinely. And mainly it's the technical input from the staff. There will be public hearings. One of the concerns would be if the change would affect navigation. And so we will have those public hearings, and there's plenty of time to do that.
Alderman Gay.
Thanks. My colleague from Ward 8, based off of the graphic attached in the staff report, it appears that it is giving more space than necessary. The green line abuts to the building. The blue line, which it says will be the new or proposed adjusted harbor line, is stretched out into the channel a little or more. Can you explain just the reason for the change?
Actually, I believe that the amount of space and whether it's necessary is really the province of the port wardens. And the major issue is whether this change will affect navigation. And they're the ones. And I think the Maritime Advisory Board will have some, wants to have some input on it as well. But I've done 4 of these, I believe, and really I've always found that we yield to the people that are technically capable of doing this. In a couple of occasions, I remember the one for Butler Marine. We did, as a matter of legislation, make an adjustment in the harbor line. Mr. Butler gave up some water to make navigation go better, but got another parcel. I use the waters. I sail in them. I come in on Wednesday night races, but I think these are fairly technical issues.
Yeah, and you also, like, to the point that you mentioned, after attending some of those Port Wardens meetings with you, I could see why the original legislation that was put in February was necessary, just creating some clarity within this. So thank you.
Right.
Oh.
Alderman Tierney?
Yeah, I know it's only first reader, but I know that in the discussion of harbor lines on Spa Creek, with how can we forget? There was talk about redoing, all of the harbor lines. My only concern or question about this is it piecemeal, or there's a valid reason just to look at this specific location and not put it in more of a comprehensive relook at the harbor lines?
So Director Nash is here, but as you know, Kevin Scott has been doing a rework of all of Title 15. A couple of years ago, we had an aerial photograph taken of all the waters. Sean Wampler matched those to GIS coordinates. When this was taken to Mr. Scott, the question was he ready for that legislation? I think the thinking is that that'll be introduced at the beginning of the next council. It's a big, big undertaking, and there's a lot of skin in the game. At the time when we were considering that, we were just going to grandfather everyone into what they had as of the photograph. The problem with the old harbor lines is they were drawn in pencil, and the pencil line itself is 5 feet wide, which makes a difference in how you approve or disapprove the harbor line. The real issue here for the harbor lines is, are we affecting navigable waters? And this is a busy part of our harbor, and we will really want our boards and commissions and our staff to look at this closely. In my assessment, and I went to several people, most notably people I race with or against, and asked them, and so did the applicant, did they think this was going to have an adverse effect? They'll all have an opportunity to testify when this is adjudicated in the public hearing. And we may have to make adjustments depending upon what we hear.
Thank you.
Alderman Paone?
Mr. Mayor, I maintain that we don't have enough time to get this done by the end of the term of this particular council. I think that some of my colleagues seem to think that we've got time to vote about and discuss a hearing officer by contract, something we've managed to do without in this town for 300 plus years, but all of a sudden at the end of a term, we have to get that in. I mean, some of my colleagues would rather discuss that and harbor lines than something as important as the status of elections. Now, the good news is that the status of elections can be discussed after this term because it wasn't to take effect until the next election in 2025, but I don't plan on letting my colleagues forget that. Thank you.
There's still time to filibuster. Keep going. All right, so all those in favour of O-23-21 on first reader, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
I refer O-23-21 to the Port Warden, and the Environmental Matters Committee. Alderman Gay.
Thank you. Yeah, I got two things for the good of the order really quick. Even though it's out of terms, you did bring up a good point with O-1821. So assuming, since they're meeting the Tuesday after the election, any ballots received afterwards would not count as a certified ballot because technically it's after the election date, correct? Okay, I figured that, but I'm just making sure because he said, how could they count the votes if it's the day after? So any of those votes are dead. I mean, so you need to get it in by, no? She's saying no. Okay, so could you clarify then? So if the election is on the 6th and...
The board will be accepting any ballot postmarked on the day of election prior to the deadline.
Okay, so it's postmarked. So then so we still wouldn't get the official tally of any election probably until about that Friday if they are continuing to receive ballots?
It doesn't take that long anymore.
Okay.
It doesn't. They said the county has a new process, and I'm not sure if any of you are aware of it. They used it during the presidential, and the presidential election has way more votes than the city does. We can get our canvass done probably in one day.
Awesome. I appreciate that very much for you clarifying that. And then lastly, Katie, if possible, I couldn't find in the budget book where money was scheduled for Office of Community Caring Services for like technological updates and things like that. Could you help me find that at some point? It doesn't have to be right now, but later on?
Sure.
Thank you.
Right. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
The agenda is completed, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anything else for good order before we
Mr.
go
Mayor,
to Alderman Paone?
since this meeting was so short, I was hoping we could take more time to discuss the nonpartisan elections.
I'm ready.
Godspeed to
I
first
would
readers from
second
now on.
Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to say that I realize that the Board of Elections is composed of 3 people. It probably ought to be bigger because the workload during an election year is really quite high. And I think by and large, they do a great job, and I'm not unhappy with I don't agree with everything that they've done, but they're volunteers, and I appreciate their efforts in behalf of the city of Annapolis. I don't want to be overly critical of those folks, and I think Eileen and the other 2 people work hard and they do the best they can. Thank you.
Okay, I think...
Mr. Mayor, Eileen is also on the Charter Review Commission, and this topic has already been brought up by them. I keep telling you, you guys ought to look at the videos because this is a crackerjack group of people who are doing a great job for the city.
Alderman Paone?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.